What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a brand new video. So, I wanted to get started with the Christmas season and start reviewing some of my favorite Christmas movies. And surprisingly, I thought I had a review for this on my channel, but I don't. So, I'm going to be starting off the Santa Claus reviews with, of course, the Santa Claus starring Tim Allen, which was released in 1994. Now, I didn't see this movie until years later. I want to say like maybe the late 90s. For some odd reason, it must have been some like Mandela effect for me because I always thought this movie came out in 95 or 96, not realizing it came out in 94. And I'm very surprised that this movie has not gotten a 4K release, considering that this year marks the 30th anniversary of the first movie. So it just blows my mind that, it didn't get a 4K release. I'm hoping it does. To be honest with you guys, I wouldn't be surprised if this movie got a Criterion release. This movie over time has become a personal favorite to a lot of people and has grown a huge cult following over the years. And it's considered, for a lot of us, probably one of a top 10 favorite Christmas movies. Um, Such a iconic and classic film, and it's very quotable. There's a lot of scenes that I find to be just very funny, and some lines to be quotable. Just It's such a great movie. But basically, the plot for the film, we have Scott Calvin, who is played by Tim Allen, and he is a single father. He has joint custody with his ex, and his son Charlie ends up spending Christmas with him. As they are sleeping, Scott wakes up and Charlie wakes up, and Scott, hears somebody on his roof. So he decides to go out to find out what's going on. And of course, he sees Santa. Santa falls off the roof and pretty much dies, which, looking back at a Disney film, that's kind of, ballsy, I guess, is the best term to put, considering it is a kids' movie in some way, I guess. Um, but let's be honest, a lot of kids' stuff had a lot of adult humor that kind of went over our heads, and when we start to rewatch it, we start to have a better understanding and are kind of surprised, like, wow, can't believe this went over our heads. Um, but yeah, he ends up causing Santa to fall off and die, and puts on basically Santa's trousers and coat. And then next thing you know, him and Charlie are sent to the North Pole. There they meet Bernard. The actor who plays Bernard is in the TV series Numbers. He's also in Harold and Kumar. I mean, he's had a wide range of movies and television as well. And Bernard's kind of like the head elf man, can't speak. That's kind of in charge, and he pretty much tells Scott that because Scott put on the coat, he is going to be the next Santa. Excuse me. Of course, Scott is kind of against this, but now he really doesn't have a choice. And of course, Charlie is all excited that his dad is Santa. But of course, Charlie really can't say anything. And this is kind of something we go into the second film with. Charlie, his mother and his stepfather, Neil, played by Judge Reinhold, they start to think that, Charlie is just having a really weird imagination, and it's kind of getting him in trouble. And the film kind of goes through a year, and we start to see, Scott slowly start transforming into Santa, ranging from gaining a lot of weight to his hair turning, gray or white, gray or white, it doesn't really matter. Or, him growing a beard. We just start to see him transition into Santa. And of course, people that work with him and know him are just kind of curious on what's going on. Eventually, because of this, kids start to believe that he's Santa. And then this causes Charlie's mom and his stepdad Neil to, get to a point where they don't think it's a good idea for Charlie to be around his father. And then, of course, one thing leads to another. This ends up involving the police, and which causes, Scott to get arrested, and has probably one of the best lines in the film, especially when they're trying to interrogate him and they're asking him what his name is. And he's, is your name, what's your name? Chris King Kringle, what's your name? Bobo Pichol. Which is one of my favorite lines. Um, and then, of course, it's up to the elves to help him. This movie is just so much fun. Yeah, you kind of realize that Santa gets killed, which is kind of weird and ridiculous in its own way. But it's such a fun movie. It's got that heart I feel like a lot of Christmas movies tend to have, and some tend to miss. Because let's be honest, I'm sure there are plenty of bad Christmas movies. I mean, come on, has anybody seen A Christmas Story 2, the straight to home video sequel starring Daniel Stern? I'm sure we have. But, just the time period, it's almost like watching a time capsule, because just the clothing, the just the atmosphere, the vehicles, just everything about the 90s. And you just, it's like you're time traveling back in time, and I love it. There's something about the 90s I love. Christmas in the 90s, I feel like, was such a great time of the year compared to now. I don't know. I feel like the magic was a lot better back then. Excuse me. But looking back on this film and revisiting, it just takes you away and brings you into this magical world of Santa Claus, the North Pole, and the elves. I like the fact that these elves, have their own personality, which is pretty cool. And, you have these characters that, of course, show up throughout the other films. But nonetheless, I've always enjoyed these characters and, the story itself, and seeing, Tim Allen slowly progress into, the good old Jelly Saint Nick. Um, but I'm sure by now, including myself, I'm sure by now all of you have seen this movie. I mean, it's 30 years old, so I'm sure everybody has seen it. But if you haven't, go check it out. I feel like you guys should take the time and watch this one, especially the trilogy. Looking back now and realizing that we do have a trilogy is just pretty special, as well as a TV series, which is a continuation. And technically, you could say the TV series in some way is another movie, but that's just, my personal opinion. Um, Judge Reinhold is great as Neil. Neil is he's a therapist. He tries to pretty much convince, Scott that this is just all in his head. And same with Charlie, like, you know, he's not real. Your dad's just playing games with you and all this stuff. And just excuse me, I think the chemistry between Neil and Tim Allen is great. I think they really feed off of each other, especially considering the characters they're playing. Where like Neil's like, Scott, you're crazy. What are you doing? And then Scott always giving Neil a hard time over all these different things, especially the sweater, the ugly sweater. Excuse me. And then, of course, the relationship he has with his ex, which the actress in that, excuse me, I do enjoy. And I like her character development through each film. And I'm glad that Disney did the right thing by bringing these characters back for their sequels, as well as adding others to it. And I feel like that's how a lot of films should work, and how the continuity with these films have worked. So, yeah, if other films can kind of take the page out of Disney's book, especially when it comes to the formula of the Santa Claus, I think a lot of movies would work. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed my review and my thoughts on The Santa Claus, a fun 1994 Christmas classic. If you've seen the movie, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Would love to hear your opinion. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It is very, very much appreciated. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in tomorrow. Man, I can't speak. Tune in tomorrow as I will be doing a review for the Santa Claus 2, which is one of my personal favorites out of the series. So, with that being said, I'm Film Talk with Mikey. Till next time, guys, we'll talk films. You guys have a good one. See you next time. Peace.